Welcome to Navigating Your Retirement. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, and I'm here with Travis Chance, our host from CFG Wealth Management. And Travis, how you doing? Now, I haven't talked to you since Thanksgiving. I
Yep.
know I overate. You said before the show you were good. You didn't overeat. That's good. I always
The only
overeat on
thing I did
Thanksgiving.
overeat, I will say, is I ate a lot more turkey this year than I normally
Oh,
do because it was delicious. I smoked a
oh, that,
turkey and I
oh,
brined it for a full 24 hours and then took it out, pumped it full of
oh,
artery clogging Creole seasoning, Donny Catchery's
oh.
Creole seasoning butter, and
Mm.
smoked it for about 4 hours, and it turned out fantastic. So, as chef's privilege, obviously as you're carving it, you end up like, ooh, let me
Well,
taste this piece. This is a
exactly.
little cutoff, and then then by the time it got time to actually fix your plate and eat, I was like, man, I'm stuffed. So that actually probably saved me right there. As I ate a bunch of protein, I didn't eat a bunch of dressing and macaroni and
Sure.
cheese and all the other accoutrement.
Mashed
However,
potatoes.
my favorite is sweet potato casserole. So I did load up
Oh.
about half the plate with sweet potato
Oh my
casserole. So
gosh,
I'm
yeah.
not going to say that I was totally good.
Okay, okay. Yeah, we went over to my sister, my brother-in-law's house. His wife made them these mashed potatoes with garlic and all the seasoning and butter and
Hmm.
heavy whipping cream, and I don't know what she did. Best potatoes I've ever had in my
Oh
life. So
yeah.
I had to go back for seconds on that.
Oh yeah.
And the gravy she made gravy from scratch from it
Hmm.
was so good. But anyway, moving along, I know that you've been a busy guy.
Yep.
Obviously, the holiday was in there, so you got some family time. But you've been meeting and talking to a lot of people, and I know you get a lot of questions, and seniors out there are asking a lot of questions. So, we're going to talk about the top questions that retirees are searching for online that they're asking you. And I think this is a good topic today, Travis.
Well, so my question is why not meet them where they're at, right?
Sure.
Retirees, let's face it, I hate to say this, but it's the absolute truth. I talk about it in my classes, we talk about it on here. The only bad question is the one you don't ask.
Right.
But a lot of times, whether people feel embarrassed because they feel like they should already know the answer to this question, or they're a little unsure and they don't know, is this something that really applies to me? I mean, any number of reasons why, excuse me, any number of reasons why there may not, excuse me, any number of reasons why they're not asking these questions. It doesn't matter, they need the answers, and that's what I want to talk about this morning, because there's a lot of commonality between retirees. Obviously, those those that are just aging into retirement, those that have just retired in the last, say, 2 to 5 years, and then those that have been retired for some time. So what I wanted to do, and that's what I spent the morning doing, is gathering a list of questions that are the most commonly searched on search engines. Because once again, I feel like a lot of times, and you have to be careful, folks. A lot of times you'll put a question in the chat bot, whether it's Gemini, whatever it is, Chat GPT. Not promoting, just giving you some options. I mean, I have seen some cases where clients or prospective clients in our classes, they will put questions in these things and they get crazy answers, right?
Oh yeah, it's not
Now, I
100%.
have, yeah, I
Yeah.
have one in particular that asked me a question in the course. It was on taxes, and it was completely wrong. Basically, if they had followed the Chat GPT option, they would have actually resulted in a penalty, because there was a nuance to what they were doing. And chatbots and all these things, they don't know nuance. They don't know what the actual rules are. They just get fed in a bunch of data, and they basically populate an answer. They give it right back to you. But sometimes the devil's in the details, right? Sometimes there's some wiggle room. So we're going to talk this morning, and I'm only going to spend a minute or two on each question, just to kind of give you some idea of kind of where other seniors are coming from. Maybe this is you. So first question, a most popular question, Tony, should not be a surprise. Do I really have enough to retire? That question never goes away. I don't care if you're wealthy. I don't care
Yep.
if you don't view yourself as wealthy or you view yourself as, whatever. That's a question that's universal. It's never going to go away because there's always that little buzz in your ear that's like, I really don't know. Because I've heard people, Tony, that have actually come to us and said, that they'll have, a considerable amount of money. I mean, the average retiree is less than 250,000, but they'll come to us with 500,000, 700 million bucks, and they'll say, I really think I'm supposed to have two. Well, why? Tell me why you think that. And by the time you do the math, their social security, they had good jobs, their social security for them and their spouse is going to produce a large portion of their monthly income need. And really, if they structure their portfolio correctly, they're probably going to be more than okay with a million. But they stress out so much on the unknown, right?
Right.
What do we do? And that's why what I would suggest, and this is really helpful, folks, you need to do an inventory of your assets first and foremost. Because I know many of you out there that we have talked to in the past that maybe didn't become clients, or even people that became clients and initially in our meetings, end up with a box, a legal box, if you will, of nothing but documents and statements and all this stuff, and they don't really know.
Oh
They've
yeah.
never
Most people
sat
have no
down.
idea. No, most people don't have any
Yeah,
idea.
they don't have a spreadsheet, right? They
Right.
don't. They just they're living, and as they're getting these statements, they throw them in the box. They don't really pay attention, and you don't sometimes understand the true value of what you have as an aggregate. And
Right.
then once you actually get to that point where you say, okay, I'm ready to pull the trigger or at least investigate, the next question you need to ask yourself is this: what is it going to take for you to live comfortably? Now, you might look at a budget as a four-letter word. That's what a lot of people do, but that certainly doesn't have to be the case. Think of it as a spending plan, because knowing what your income need is, it's not confining. It's actually giving you permission, because if you can structure your assets to produce the cash flow needed, then you have the permission to actually spend and enjoy retirement. And that's obviously going to affect your behavior, because if you're always out there guessing and you don't really know whether or not you have enough money to really retire, as the question says, then how are you going to spend confidently? You're not. It's
Oh,
not going to happen, Tony. So the whole stigma around not having an income plan or not having at least some kind of blueprint, I think we need to think really, really thoughtfully about that. See if we can get past that almost feeling confined emotion, and really look at that as a way to really maximize what you're doing.
yeah. I mean, the answer to that is, do I have enough to retire? It depends, is the answer, and the way
Maybe.
you're going to figure it out is by working with a retirement income planner who does this for a living and is a trusted fiduciary who's going to look out for your best interest and help you put together an actual plan, and that will say, yes, you can do this and this and this and strategies. I mean, there's a lot to it. And
Mhm.
even people who try to figure it out and sit down with a spreadsheet, that's a good start. But I think you're going to have to work with a financial professional, whether that's you, Travis, or someone else. Our listeners and viewers need to understand that.
Well, because retirement's made up of a lot of moving parts. It's made
Yeah.
up of a lot of pieces. It's not one thing static, and that's never going to change.
Right.
Which leads us into question number two: how much can I safely spend each month? That is also up to you, because here again, and we'll talk through some of the longevity questions and some of the other things in the next few minutes, but the 4% rule for the most part is kind of outdated, because depending on your life expectancy, depending on your risk tolerance, depending on your ability to absorb some of these market events, emotionally speaking, you could be 4.5, you could be 3.5.
Hmm.
It all depends. one of the better articles that I've read in some time was from Morningstar, and this has been a few years back. Wade Fowl and it's PFAU. He came out with he and another, I think it was Michael Fink, and I may get that wrong, but Wade Fowl was the general author of the article, and it was talking about safe withdrawal strategies. And essentially, what he said is it depends on your risk tolerance, because if you're very conservative, you might be someone that can only withdraw, say, 2.5 to 2.7% of your retirement assets. Because why? If you're not getting growth and it's this interest rate environment we live in, you're certainly not going to get a significant amount of growth if you have 60 or 65% of your assets in 4% bonds. It's probably not going to happen, right? I mean, maybe interest rates fall out of bed again. I don't see that, and that would be the way you get appreciation as well as the yield, but it's probably not going to be to your advantage. So, I mean, if you're
Right.
middle of the road, maybe that number's 3.5. But here's the problem. I think sometimes we try to fit a square peg in a round hole, because if you can't take the risk, then you have to adjust accordingly. You can't push the risk in the hole if it doesn't fit. And you can't say, okay, well, then what you're telling me is I just need to have 100% stock. Well, that could work if you can take what comes with that, which is additional volatility. Markets are going to go up and down. If you don't have that risk capacity, you certainly should not be doing it, because what'll wind up happening is you're going to try to time the market. You're going to get nervous. You're going to say, oh, I'm going to sell. And then all of a sudden, kind of like in April, all of a sudden we're 30% higher, and you're sitting there going, crap, why did I do that? Right. And you can't. So how much you spend safely each month, it needs to be set by, what your risk tolerance is, what your asset structure looks like. All these are going to play into that. And of course, longevity.
Sure. So what you're going to need in retirement, what you need on a monthly basis, how much can you spend? Well, what's another question, top question people
Well,
are asking?
it kind of goes hand in hand with, when should I take Social Security? And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we've spent a tremendous amount on past episodes.
Yep.
But Social Security, same thing. It depends. We don't know. Social Security, it could make all the sense in the world for you to take it at 62. It's very rarely the case, but it has happened. What about full retirement age? For the higher earning spouse, even if the math does work a little bit to your favor in the beginning, for the higher earning spouse, you need to wait to full retirement age for the spouse, not for you, because that way the spouse can inherit the full benefit that they're eligible for. Should you wait to 70? Probably not. I mean, some may, if you're working and you don't need it, sure. But very seldom is the case that you should spend retirement assets for, say, 5, 6, 7 years if you retire a little early and wait on Social Security. Sometimes the happy median is maybe spend them a couple years, get full retirement age Social Security, protect your spouse, and then move forward. So
and to hit the sweet spot, waiting till 70, you'd have to live
80,
quite a long
82
time.
to 84 right now. I think it's a moving target, 82 to 84 with inflation. That's usually what you have to do to live. If you live longer than that, you made a good choice. You live a life expectancy 84 or less, you made a bad decision. So, but there again, Tony, here's the main point. We don't know, right? I don't know of a person that I've met with that has a birth certificate with a life expectancy or, a expiration date. Right. We don't know when we're going to pass.
Right.
I mean, there's not like a milk container. You're not born with this stamp on your behind that says best if used by 1/3 of 2045. You don't know that.
Right.
So it's an educated decision.
Yeah. So Social Security is a big one. Yeah.
One of the more popular now recently, what happens if the market drops again? Because let's face it, we're at all-time highs, right? We need to kind of drown out the Chicken Littles, but you do need to make sure that you keep in mind markets do not go straight up. So sometimes it's good to trim, and that's what I've been recommending to our clients is rebalancing.
Yeah.
Trimming.
What if all my money is in an IRA or 401k? All my retirement money is in one of these, and it's all in the market. in this inside my IRA, and I need that I have to have that 4% a year or a month to live on, right? I have to take that 4%, but the market goes down 20 to 40%. Then what?
Then you have to make some hard choices.
Yeah.
And that's the real problem. Sequence of returns risk is real.
Yeah.
That is a real threat. You may think I'm out there just blowing smoke. I'm not. Basically, think about it like this, Tony. Dollar cost averaging, as you put money into your retirement account while you're working, you're actually buying volatility, and you're buying it both ways. So as the market goes down, you're buying shares. As the market goes up, you're buying shares. Your average share price is lower. You're probably going to do really well in that environment.
Yep.
Here's the problem. Flip it on its axis. If you start taking money out as the market's going up and down, you're selling less shares when it's up, more shares when it's down to generate the same income.
Right.
So the momentum could push you in a position where you can't recover. So just like you just kind of inferred, what do? Well, you need to have one of a few different points of view, I guess. You could always do a bucketing approach and say, you know what, I'm going to put aside this amount of money for the next 12, 24 months. I'm going to, put this amount of money aside for the next, say, 2 to 10 years. And then 10 years and beyond, I'm going to have it in equities or have it in whatever. And maybe that's how you eliminate some of that time that could lapse in the sequence, waiting for your portfolio to return.
And it's rebalancing too. What you
Sure.
talked about, you said you've been recommending to clients, hey,
yeah, we've been
probably
trimming
yes.
Yeah, the market does not move in a straight line. So whenever it gives you outsized returns, sometimes, and case in point, we've been talking about the benefits of, let's say, interest rates start to creep downward, where we haven't really been a fan of fixed income and bonds for the last 5-6 years. This could now be when they have their time to shine. So, it may not be something that you've thought about recently, but it may be something you need to think about. Or if you don't want to do the bucket approach, you could always, like you said, like we talked about, take a percentage, 3.5, 4.5, whatever that number is. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. And then the third option you could use is you could buy income and invest the difference and say, you know what? I want my income to be X, and it cannot go below that no matter what. So if let's say you have $500,000 and you said, you know what, 200,000 is what it's going to take for me to buy my income with Social Security, with pension, with all the other things. And then I'm going to have 300,000 that I can invest and let it just grow and do what it does. And if the market goes down, I'm okay because my mailbox paycheck has been here the whole time. Boom. That is certainly an option.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are strategies for every scenario. It's just, you need to find the one that fits you.
And have a plan. If you have a plan going in, you're not going to have to worry about market volatility. If you're working with somebody like yourself,
or Tony,
and
you've
got a plan.
You know what you could also do? You could do what we do. You could run all three as an option and see which one wins.
Yeah.
Because that way, you're watching the race unfold and obviously on paper, and then see which one wins. And then you can also tweak it and say, okay, well, now Travis, let me throw this one at you. What if I need 5,000, not 4,000? Okay, move the needle. Say, okay, you need 5, not 4. You need 6, not 7. Move the needle, see which one wins. And then that's the one I think you attack. Because you make it on paper, you don't have to make it in real life. You don't have to make that mistake in real life. So, Tony, some other questions. These are good. We've flown through. I think I'm going to get through half of them. We're going to save the next half for next week.
That sounds good.
So next question. This is more because of interest rates being where they are, prices appreciating on homes. What happens to my mortgage? Should I keep it or should I pay my house off and buy another house, right? Or sell my house and buy another house? Here's the question that I have for you. Where are you at in life? Because, in the cycle, of real estate. Most of the time, Tony, we go into our first home. It's a starter home. Then you start to grow your family. Maybe you go up to the next tier, and then by the time you fully, everybody has their 2.3 kids. Then you actually buy your biggest home, and then as you retire, typically most baby boomers, they're going to downsize. Well, it's not been a reality for most, right? And the reason being is they look at it from, number one, an emotional side of, we had our kids in this house, or we had our first Christmas in this house, or whatever. The emotional side keeps you from actually pulling the trigger, but now it's a financial question too, because you look at it and you say, you know what, I've got this. Say you've got a 3,000 square foot house that you bought for 300. Now it's worth 6, but you may have to sell that 3,000 square foot house for 600 and buy a 2,000 square foot at the new in the new market environment. Does that make sense, Tony? So that emotional side is also like, well, I'm giving up something to change houses. I'm going to stay put. I'm going to put a sun porch on. I'm going to enclose my garage or do whatever home improvement because I don't feel like I'm getting fair value. I think that's becoming more and more of an issue. And then you look at the mortgage rate, right? That you have someone that says, I'm getting into retirement. Why do I want to create this liability? And I've got a 3% mortgage almost paid off, where to get what I want, I may have to get a 6% mortgage and have a start over with a new balance. And here I am 65, 66, 67 years old. So, it's really tough to make these decisions. But one of the things that I tell folks all the time is you have to do the math and let the math drive the train. Now, the emotional side, I get it. It's tough because you don't want to give anything up. But as you age, think about this too. There are additional costs that come with the management of a property, whether it's your personal or rental property, et cetera. So taxes may go up, insurance may go up. You may have, painting and all the upkeep and the things on the house that maybe you once did that now you're not going to be able to do. That could be an additional cost. So sometimes these things that we don't really see frequently, that could be a problem down the road. So, do you want to downsize and be able to age in place, or do you get to the point where maybe you have to make other arrangements because it's, the home you're in is just absolutely too much of an issue for you to keep up on a regular basis. So it's this mortgage market, Tony, has actually turned a lot of people on their head.
Yeah. Well, and that's so true. And you have to look at, your housing situation. And when people retire, they think, I'm going to downsize, I'll save money there, but that's not always the case. And so you really have to pay attention.
Well, there's a lot of additional costs that we don't think about.
Oh, yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
your property taxes don't go away once the house is paid
and
off.
your roof is a 30-year roof. But
Yeah.
maybe that 30 years, we talked about how fast time is flying before the
Yeah.
show. Maybe that 30 years is like got 10 years of a shelf life left. And really, when you talk about a 30-year roof, you're not talking about 30. Most of those are going to start running into issues 25 to 30.
Right. Same with windows, and windows have
Yeah.
actually outpaced roofs as far as cost.
Oh
So
my
your
gosh.
windows will only last 30 years, typically, if they last that. And if you replace all the windows in your home, you better have the ability to take out a heck of a loan. That's going to cost
I got
you.
a price
That's
from
real money.
Yes, I got a price from Anderson Windows to replace all the windows in my house. I needed
Yep.
therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
It was
Anderson are one of the best.
it was a big deal.
Yeah, Anderson windows are great. And you have, I do know they use their own installers that are Anderson trained. So you're paying an upcharge for that. They're not cheap, but they are made in the town where I live in Minnesota is their home office. So
That's
I have to.
that's why you're so expensive and they're so expensive. I get it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Last, and this is going to be a tease. This is not going to be something we're going to go through. So next week, the second part to this series on the questions that retirees ask. One of the big questions, Tony, that retirees are asking, and it's kind of telling, It says, will inflation ruin my retirement? And folks, next week, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to start the show with inflation. How is that going to impact your spending plan? How is that going to impact your retirement, your Social Security timing, all the things that go with that? So join us next week. We're going to be here talking about questions that you're asking, maybe questions you should be asking, but you didn't know to ask.
Right.
But at the end of the day, Tony, you're right. I mean, and this is something we talk about incessantly on the show, in person. If you don't have a plan, it's not something that's probably going to benefit you going into retirement without a blueprint. Because just like building a house, you wouldn't just call your local construction company and say, deliver a bunch of concrete block and 2x4s and nails and let me start building. You have to know what your budget is. You have to know what the capacity and the size of the home that you're going to build, and all the things and the details that you want. And retirement is no different. So if you're out there and you're getting to the end of this year and you still don't have a blueprint, that's why you need to give us a call. And folks, we're getting into the giving season, Christmas. If you're a client and you're sitting out there right now, do me one favor. Press forward on this email or on how you learned about the show this week and send this to 3 of your friends, because I can assure you they're probably sitting out there, if nothing else, asking these questions. They're not asking you because they don't want to tell you, but these might be the answers to these questions might be the difference in whether they're successful and able to have the retirement that you are. So give them the gift in this giving season. And if you need help, give us a call, 877-269-0839. That's 877-269-0839.
All right, Travis, a lot of great points. We'll get to some more questions in next week's show, but I love it. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Navigating Your Retirement with our host, Travis Chance.